Driving manual shouldn't be as difficult as it seems. I've been an instructor for 10 years and I've done nearly 1,000 mock tests with various different people. And there's just one thing that keeps coming up as a problem for almost everybody that drives a car that's different to what they're used to. Getting to grips with a new clutch and stalling. And you think it's a problem with the clutch and you not being used to a new car, but it's not that. There's a different fix and I'm going to explain it to you in this video. After that, I'm also going to tell you what to do with your feet if you're on a hill, because people think that it's a different process. It kind of is, but not really. I'll explain. But first, I really feel like if you understand how something works, you're able to use it much more effectively. If you're just told how to do something, then you do it right in the situation that you're in your instructor's car. But once you're transferred into another car, like mine for a random mock test, or the car that you buy after you've passed your driving test, that technique that works on that car doesn't work so effectively in another car. So first, let me explain how a car stalls in the first place. This is a rev counter. When your car's off, it reads 0 because your engine is rotating at 0 revolutions per minute. Now that my car's on, you can hear it. I've actually got a microphone attached to the back so that when I explain how you do this, you can hear what you're supposed to be hearing in your car as well. And when I'm playing the outside microphone, I'll throw this graphic up on the screen so you understand what you're listening to. So right now my engine's switched on. I can hear it, but I can also see that on the rev counter. My engine's rotating at just under 1, which means just under 1,000 revolutions per minute. Quite fast. When my engine's switched on, what it means is I'm injecting fuel into the engine to make my engine spin, but I'm just injecting the bare minimum amount of fuel to keep the engine alive and stop it dying. We call that idle. The engine right now is idling. So contrary to popular belief, I'm not pressing the accelerator. I'm nowhere near the gas pedal, but I'm still sending petrol gas into the engine. So in some cars, if I try and set off in this state at idle, so I'm lifting the clutch, notice I'm not pressing the accelerator or the gas. If I try and set off like this, the car will just conk out, stall, and the engine will die. So why didn't that happen in my car? Because this is a petrol car as well. We all know that it's harder to stall a diesel and it's easy to stall a petrol. So why didn't my car stall? Well, some petrol cars, especially newer modern ones, this is a 2021 version of an Abarth 595, have something called pre-rev, which means that as soon as you start lifting the clutch, whether you're near the accelerator or not, the engine will inject more fuel into the engine to stop you from stalling artificially without you having to press the accelerator to make that happen. But pre-rev isn't an anti-stall system. It's just injecting a little bit more fuel than it normally does at idle to help you push off a little bit more smoothly. You can absolutely still stall the car. If I lift the clutch up too fast, the engine dies and now my rev counter is at 0. So with that example in mind, let's go back to the main issue. What is a stall and how do we make the engine do that? If we know how to make the engine do that, we can avoid doing that in the first place. So my engine's at just under 1,000 revolutions per minute. We know that's idle and we know that's as near as makes no difference the minimum speed that the engine needs to be going at to keep alive. So if we add more load to the engine by setting off and we only keep the same amount of power in the engine, minimum idle fuel, then that will cause the revs to drop. The engine goes below idle, below its minimum speed, and that will cause a stall. Okay, so if we're increasing the load, the workload of the engine, by actually asking it not just to stay alive, but to move me, what do we need to do to combat the stall? We need to add more power into the engine to make sure it's got enough power to, when we increase the load and the revs drop, stay alive. So let's go into first gear. Let's increase the power by pressing the accelerator. Let's lift the clutch. And when you set off with a little bit more power, obviously I put way too much power in there to make the point, you could hear it. When we increase the power and increase the workload, the engine feels so much smoother and much more comfortable. There's no chance, however fast I set off, however fast I lift the clutch, that I can stall, because the engine power level, the engine revs, the engine speed is so much higher than its minimum stall speed. So if engine stall speed is here, that's idle. I increase the power up to here and then add some workload, the power becomes here, I'm still way above my stall speed, so I'd never stall when I'm setting off. It's all starting to come together, isn't it? It's all starting to make sense. I bet you can guess what I'm going to explain next. So what's the mistake I keep seeing all these random people make when they get in my car and they've learned in another car? Well, the first mistake is not using any accelerator at all. That's a fatal error, and it's a huge teaching problem that some instructors use. Because if they teach in a diesel and I can just teach you how to set off with the clutch, then my life's way easier, but joke's on you because you can't drive your Fiat 500 at all when you buy one and pass your driving test. I think it's lazy, bad teaching. So I'm gonna help you with that today. You can't set off in a Fiat 500 without using the accelerator. It doesn't have pre-rev and it's not a diesel, so it won't just set off with the clutch. You can substitute Fiat 500 with any other small engined first car, VW Up, for example. So either you're not pressing the accelerator to set off at all, or you're not pressing the accelerator enough to set off because your instructor's car had pre-rev or was a diesel. So the first problem, we've explained why that's silly. You understand now the engine power, the revs, and how that works. The second problem though is something slightly different. When you press the accelerator, it feels like you're gonna go fast. It feels like you're gonna shoot off into oblivion or set off like Lewis Hamilton. But you're not. Let me explain. If I'm setting off in a fast condition, like I wanna set off fast into a roundabout, and I'm just tickling the accelerator pedal, giving the most minute amount of power, I'm only raising the rev range, the rev counter, up to just 1,000 revolutions per minute. So I've maybe given it 1 or 2% more power. And then I try and set off fast into a roundabout and it's not smooth at all. Well, best case scenario, it's not smooth. Worst case scenario, the engine just conks out. My car's got pre-rev, like I said. So in another car, in a Fiat 500, in a VW Up, what I just did there would have completely ended the engine. I would have stalled it. But why? Because here's idle speed. I've raised to here, but the load that I'm putting on the engine by trying to set off quickly has brought the speed of the engine down to here, and then we stall. So what you need to understand to make this work is that your right foot doesn't control how fast you set off. That sounds counterintuitive, I know. Bear with me. First gear, handbrake off. I'm gonna go up to 3, maybe 4,000 revs on the rev range. There's 4,000. Now I'm gonna set off. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. Why is it fine? Because I'm controlling the power with my left foot, the clutch. The problem I keep seeing people make is they're not applying enough accelerator. The fix is to apply more accelerator. Don't be scared of it though, because you're controlling the speed that you set off with your left foot, with your clutch. Think of your right foot, your accelerator, as power, and your left foot, the clutch, as a gate. It's a power gate. So when your clutch is down, the gates are closed. I'm not letting any of that power through into the engine. Look, my clutch is down, I'm revving the hell out of it, but none of that power is getting through. Once you get to the biting point, those gates start to open. They just let a little bit of the power through into the wheels. So, my right foot is building the power, my left foot is only letting 10% of the power through to the wheels. If I lift the clutch all the way to the top, that's the gates completely open, 100% of that power gets through. So the trick to setting off in a Fiat 500 or VW Up is to use enough power in your right foot, the accelerator, so that the engine can never stall, but to control the power with your left foot so that only enough gets through to give you the set off and the pull away that you want. So I want to pull away slowly. I'm going to use more than enough power to make sure my engine never dies. Why would I not? Don't want to stall. And then I'm using 10, 20, 30%, just bringing the clutch up gently, gradually opening those floodgates to make sure that I set off at the speed and the pace that I want to. I wish I made this video before. You wouldn't believe how many times I see people get this wrong or not understand what's happening when they're doing that with their feet. That's going to help so many people. Before I tell you what to do differently on a hill, kind of differently, do me a big, huge favor. I'm only able to make these videos to help everybody learn to drive because you guys support me. And currently, less than 50% of you that watch these videos are subscribed to the channel. If more of you were to subscribe, it costs nothing, it's just a button. It means that you're notified when I make a new video like this that will help you learn to drive more. And it means that I can help more people with these videos and do bigger, better, badder projects to help you guys more. Thank you. Now, let's go and find a hill. Set the gas. Way too much. But as I lift the clutch, did you hear the engine noise dies? The engine noise falls away, but I've got enough power in reserve so that it doesn't drop below the stall speed. When it makes sense, it's just, oh yeah, that makes sense. Oh, duh. And I'm using the clutch sparingly. I'm not lifting it up all the way. I'm not lifting it up to a count of 3 like some instructors say. That's helpful, but only for your first few lessons. After that, you need to understand what the clutch is doing and how it works so that you can use it effectively in different scenarios. Sometimes I want to lift it up to a count of 3. Sometimes that's not really helpful. For example, setting off fast onto a roundabout or trying to move off from behind a parked car, you want slower than 3 in that case. So on a roundabout, you want quicker than 3, but you need more gas to counteract that. Understanding what you're doing. I'm not going to teach you to be a mechanic. I'm not a mechanic myself, but I understand what the clutch and the accelerator are doing. And if you do too, you're going to be able to be much more effective and better driver. Should I do more videos like this, like explaining the mechanics? Let me know in the comments. Thanks. Okay, I'm parked on a pretty severe hill. I'm sure it's not coming across on the camera. I tried to get out and film the hill. It's still not really coming across on the camera, but it's a 9-degree gradient. If I took the handbrake off, I'm rolling back, like big time. Like we're on a hill, yeah? We're on a hill. Okay, it's a hill, big hill. So if I don't set off properly, then I'm gonna roll backwards severely and probably fail my driving test. So we need to understand what we're doing with our feet to make sure that that doesn't happen. So we will employ a slightly different technique, but not really. The principles of this stay exactly the same. If we lower the engine revs below the stall speed, the car stalls. If we raise the engine revs up, then we never stall. And there's 2 ways of doing this. I don't mind if your instructors taught you with a handbrake or without a handbrake. It's perfectly easy and simple both ways. So we need to find the biting point first. There's the biting point with my clutch. I take the handbrake off and I don't need to rush, because what the biting point's doing is delivering, where my clutch is, it's delivering some of that power from the engine to the wheels. We've opened the flood just a little bit. It's giving enough power to the wheels to stop me from moving backwards. It's also not enough power to make me move forwards. What we need to do then, before we add more load, is raise the revs. The load of setting off on a hill is higher than setting off on a flat bit of ground. So when I then lift the clutch, the car moves forward and it has no struggle, no problem. It feels good. It feels like the car's surging forward instead of struggling forwards. Why? Because I've added the power. So we're way above the stall speed. The other way of doing this, and this is the way that most real drivers actually drive because it's just quicker. If you can master this, it's a really, really good technique. I've got my foot on the brake, that's stopping me from rolling backwards. I'm lifting my clutch up to the biting point. No, I'm not, because I'm in fucking neutral. Dickhead. Imagine we're stopped at a set of traffic lights on a hill. Imagine we're at a giveaway line. Are we gonna put the handbrake on every single time? Real drivers don't do that. If you wanna do that on your driving test, that's fine. But mastering this is legit, it's key. Handbrake's off. The foot brake's stopping me from rolling backwards down this deep, dark, steep hill. Now I'm at the biting point though. I can lift my foot off the brake. If you roll backwards, your clutch is too low. Look. If you roll forwards, your clutch is too high. Spend some time on the hill mastering this. Where's the perfect biting point? There. I'm at the perfect biting point right now. I'm not rolling forwards, I'm not rolling backwards. The clutch is holding me on the hill. I've been talking to you for probably 20 seconds now with my foot on the clutch at the biting point, no handbrake, no foot brake. So why are we rushing? The main thing that I see people do is they're at the biting point, they lift off the brake, they rush onto the accelerator, they put not enough, too much, and it goes all wrong. But look how much space and time you have. Let's do that again just to illustrate. I'm at the biting point. I'm slowly lifting off the brake, and I've got all the time in the world to get to the accelerator. I'm not on the accelerator yet. I'm just static on a hill on the clutch. You wouldn't do it this slowly, obviously. This is just to prove a point that you don't need to rush this. When you rush, it goes wrong. To go faster, This is probably a Disney quote. To go faster, you go slower. Is that from Cars? I don't know. I got that from somewhere. If you slow it down, it means that you'll make less mistakes, which means that you'll get it done faster. I'm still just on the clutch. I've got so much time to do this. Then, so much time to find the perfect amount of acceleration. There it is. It's about 2,000. And then I can lift the clutch and surge forward with power, immediacy, speed, not struggle, judder, and potentially a stall. So when we're on a hill, essentially what we do is exactly the same. We still need to add accelerator. We still need to hit the gas to add power, to add energy to the engine, so that when you set off and add load, the engine is still above its stall speed. You still can surge forward and not struggle or stall. The only difference is we need to be at the biting point first. And don't rush, because you've got so much time to get it right. Practice this loads. Practice putting way too much accelerator on. Make the car make a silly noise and start getting comfortable with the fact that you can control that level of power with your left foot. I promise this will be a game changer. If you're still struggling with the difference between a diesel, your instructor's car, and a petrol, your first car, then I made this video to help with that. The difference feels like a chasm, a huge Grand Canyon between the two cars. But once you understand what's going on between them, I promise it's not that difficult. I think you'll find this video helpful. Watch that one next. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, peace, bye.